Mattison has a very clear mission: give the people of their company what they need. This is her path to make them happy, productive, and engaged. So, good afternoon, Yahmin, and thank you.
Rebecca. Thank you.
Yeah, welcome to the show called Self-Made.
Thank you for having me here. I'm very happy to be here.
We're really excited to know your secret.
I don't have a lot of secrets, but I'll share what I can.
So, to start with, I know you've gone through a lot of challenges before you reach your position. So, can you share with us your childhood?
My childhood, well, I was born to a family of 2 professors and 1 brother. But the only thing about that was that I grew up thinking I wanted to be a professor. But then after that, I thought, no, I want to be in a more exciting environment. I want to go to the corporate world. So, yeah, but I had a very idyllic childhood.
Who really inspired you when you were a kid?
My mother was a university professor, the highest rank that can be given to anyone at UP. She to me was the model of a working mom. You know, she was there. She was always there for us to teach us with homework, etc. But she was always very successful at university, at where she worked, and I always looked up to that. Yeah.
So, what changed your goals from academics to corporate?
I think after a couple of years, I was probably, when you read about millennials today, I'm a Gen Xer, but I was probably a little bit like how millennials are today, where you only live once, you want to experience something outside of where I grew up. So I went to the corporate world and kind of never really looked back from that point.
So what do you really love about your job, like especially in HR?
But I like working with people. You know, my job right now has always been to ensure that people have what they need to be productive at work, to be happy at work, to be engaged, and I like that. You know, it's obviously as you climb up the ladder, it becomes harder and harder to be with people. But, you know, I'd like to see how my work affects people's lives.
Are you a tough boss?
I don't think I'm a tough boss, actually. I like working for tough bosses because I think I can be quite flexible. But I don't think I'm that tough a boss. But I do try and make sure they keep their eye on the goal.
Why you went abroad?
Well, you know, I fell in love and got married.
Oh, wow!
That's a story, right? I met my husband in my second job. He was working with our foreign partners, and I was working with the local partners.
So, what's the best learning you experience in UK?
Funnily enough, I think the best learning was actually going there and then coming back. I think there was a lot that can be said about opening your eyes and just being flexible and understanding that there are just different cultures, and if you work with people, you can't be just one sort of manager. You have to understand people. And I think going abroad and then coming back especially was a huge culture shock. Helped me to understand that that's the most important thing, right? That you have to work with people and their culture.
What's the culture shock you experienced coming back?
I was just really surprised. There were a lot of things, you know, like age discrimination law is coming in now and gender discrimination law, but that had been in the UK when I was there a good 10, 20 years. So coming back here and then seeing recruitment ads that said, you know, 25 years old, pretty, you know, certain height, and that was a real culture shock. Even things like that, which are, you know, largely operational, really kind of shocked me. But then you have to go with the flow, right? That's the way that things work here. Thankfully now things are moving on and it's different now. You know, I'm surprised. I'm always surprised at how resilient and how flexible Filipinos are.
So, how is it being a working mom?
It's good. We only have 1 child. She's 9 years old. It's good. Her school isn't that far from my work, so sometimes she comes over and she visits on the way home, and we go home together. And I think that it's good for her to see the office as well, meet my colleagues, and understand where her mother goes when she goes to work.
So, what's your biggest advice to women, especially mixed married?
I think you just have to be, like in any other marriage, I think you just have to, maybe more than usual, just communicate a lot. Because you come from 2 different cultures, sometimes it's a real challenge that they don't understand where we're coming from. But I think, you know, if you talk it through, and you're just very open to your spouse, I think it can work. I think that's the secret of all marriages.
You know, we've been working on really promoting Philippines. Our vision is to make Philippines only for 2030. What's your best advice to our co-Filipinos?
I would say see the country and see the country for what it is. You know, we were just talking about when arriving home from abroad, from London, and then coming back to the traffic and how, you know, how horrible it was. But, you know, if you look at the smiles of people, you travel anywhere in the Philippines, people, you know, people always say how beautiful it is. But I think really what makes us, everyone who's ever come here to visit us from abroad has always said, we have the friendliest people on earth. Mm-hmm. And I think, you know, that can't be replaced, that culture can't be replaced. And so I think, you know, making the Philippines great is all about working on that culture, I think. Mm-hmm. You know, never losing that friendliness and that positive attitude about things, because, you know, we have the capacity to make things better.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rebecca. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Every success has its struggles. Every dream has its trials and tests. Listen to their stories, because if they did it, you can also be called self-made.